Welcome back, bigots. There's a lot to explore in this video, so let's get to it. In a recent 𝐷𝐚𝐸𝐴n video, 𝐷EMIAN exposed everything we pretty much already knew. I plan on going over some of the highlights from his video and combine that information with an article from Wired that Legendary Drops replied to. The reason being, there's a bit of interconnectivity between the Wired article and 𝐷EMIAN's video that I wanted to share. As a quick synopsis, 𝐷EMIAN had a gaming employee reach out to him and confirm the reality of everything we have been noticing for the past 10 years. For convenience, I will leave both the 𝐷EMIAN video and Legendary Drops' video in the description below. 𝐷EMIAN's video confirmed the following: that, yes, there is an anti-white agenda within the gaming industry. Yes, there is a pro-gay and or trans agenda within the gaming industry. Yes, there is an anti-male agenda in the gaming industry. Yes, there is an anti-female, but more specifically anti-feminine agenda in the gaming industry, which is adjacent to the trans agenda. And last but certainly not least, the head roller over here, GLAAD, Gays Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, are apparently the top donor and decision makers to the sweet baby cause. Yikes. So those patterns of behavior we already knew, well, mostly, and have been proven true, like the race swapping, gender swapping, etc. But more importantly is the motivation, and this is what I wanted to highlight. According to 𝐷EMIAN's contact, the Rainbow Cult wished to drive away the real target audience. That would be us. They believe that the Rainbow Cult will be able to financially support the AAA industry themselves, and we are no longer needed in our own hobby. That is what they have deluded themselves into believing, anyway. Now that you understand those vital pieces of information, we can move on to the Wired article. But keep the motivation that I just described in the back of your mind as we go through the Wired article, because the Wired article will make much more sense given what you're about to hear. Again, the motivation is they want to get rid of us, and the Rainbow Cult want to financially support the AAA industry all by themselves. So keep that in mind. First paragraph. For people who make video games, 2024 was a year of holding on for dear life. That's an understatement. At the annual Game Developers Conference in March, Survive Till 25 was this year's incantation, summoned to keep morale on pace. Others resorted to full-on screams, which was hilarious, by the way, as layoffs in the industry charted record highs and developers found themselves under attack online for conspiratorial nonsense. Okay, it's reply time. The conspiratorial nonsense is none other than the evidence we have been compiling over the years from the race swaps and gender swaps and brazen anti-white sentiment. The phrase conspiracy nonsense has become synonymous with truth-telling. Now, this next paragraph that I won't bother to read out loud is the author complaining about layoffs and firings. This is an easy fix. Just make games the target audience would like to play. Ignore the infinitesimal minority known as the modern audience. To understand why they keep complaining about the consequences of their actions is to understand that denial is paramount to perpetuate their DEI grift. Next paragraph. As the industry faltered, games suffered. High-profile releases like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, were commercial failures. Yeah. Oh yeah, they were. While there were many reasons for this, online right-wing groups reduced it to a single mantra: go woke, go broke. By their logic, if a game does poorly and has even a whiff of diversity, be it regarding gender, sexuality, or race, that disappointing performance is the fault of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, now, let me understand the double standard here. You tyrants have free reign to insult paying customers as racist and bigots and homophobes. But if we create a slogan to describe the evidentiary outcome of your petulance, it's immature. Okay, fine. So be it. In case you haven't noticed, ESG and DEI compliant losers, your labels, slander, and ad hominems are useless. Next paragraph. Ball says that the blame for all of this can't be pinned to a single thing, like capitalism, mismanagement, the Wu flu, or even interest rates. It also involves development costs, how studios are staffed, customers' spending habits, and game pricing. This storm is so brutal, he says, because it is all of these things at once, and none have really alleviated since the layoffs began. So, using capitalism as a reason for their misfortune is such a Marxist thing to do. The reality here is that they can't control what you buy, and they hate that. They wish they could control where and how you spend your money. But let's move on. In other words, it's been a dismal year for morale. When developers gathered in Los Angeles in June for Summer Game Fest, developer New Blood Interactive bought out a billboard solely to memorialize their fellow developers who'd lost jobs. We love you. We miss you. We hate money. Of course you hate money, because your success necessitates an influx of money. You're in a business, not a charity. Propaganda over profit has become your modus operandi, and it's that modus operandi that is the direct consequence of your poor decision-making. You are too far invested into your pathologically insane agenda to course-correct your situation. This is the hill you want to metaphorically die on, and metaphorically die you will, because you are either too proud to admit you're wrong, or you have sincerely convinced yourself of the radical racism you proselytize. Now, this next paragraph is the most important paragraph in the entire idiotic article. And here it goes. This year may have been the 10th anniversary of Gamergate, the 2014 online hate movement that shaped the internet harassment tactics apparent today. But online, conversations felt like a trip back in time. Conservative ideologues bemoaned the inclusion of characters who did not fit the cookie-cutter image of a white, cis, hetero man. Where have I heard that before? They complained that DEI was being forced upon them. It wasn't. Okay. This entire paragraph is factually inaccurate. The complaint about DEI is fact. DEI is enforced at the federal level, so forgive me if I don't believe the author when she tells me that DEI isn't being forced upon us. And I have other points to make, like, number one, Gamergate was a response to journalistic integrity concerns. These conniving left-wing propagandists continue to vomit the same worn-out gaslighting that didn't work then, it doesn't work today, and will never work in the future. In fact, Laura Fryer, in a recent video of hers, explains Gamergate thoroughly without uttering the phrase. She described it as a bubble that was formed by the journalist, who pulled studios inside their bubble, and from that moment onward, they would continue to do each other favors, ignoring the customers outside of that bubble. What Mrs. Fryer explained is identical to Gamergate. That is, journalists engaging in an incestuous relationship with the industry itself. What the author of this laughable article is alluding to is that gamers focused on Zoe Quinz's infidelity and not what her infidelity resulted in. The issue never was focused on what Zoe did, per se, but who she did it to, what she gained for doing it. We never cared about Zoe cheating on her boyfriend, but we started to care when we discovered what Zoe was given in return for her adultery. That nuance is suspiciously expunged from liberal arguments. I wonder why. And point number 2, if the author wants to learn about harassment campaigns, I'd look no further than Alyssa Mercante. I hear her lawsuit is going swell. Additionally, these anti-white ideologues do not tolerate evidence very well. This is why these types of articles exist. And that is why I mentioned at the beginning of this video the importance of 𝐸𝐸𝐚𝐽's contact and what he said. Remember, they want you gone. So, these types of articles exist to overwhelm you with a sense of defeat. And that sense of defeat is supposed to force you out the door of the hobby you have enjoyed and supported for decades. Here's the last paragraph I will quote. Games with black leads and characters were derided as forced, because most of them were. Female characters were deemed unattractive, or masculine, were suffering from DEI-chen, because we have physical, tangible evidence of that. Dragon Age the Veilguard was criticized by far-right trolls for its customization options, which allow players to create characters with top surgery scars, or play with a non-binary companion. After reviews were released, conspiracists latched onto cliched phrases or other language as proof that Studio BioWare was instructing reviewers how to talk about their game. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. What the author is alluding to here is the infamous return to form talking point, and for more on that issue, watch Legendary drops his video because he goes into more detail about that, and I don't need to beat that dead horse to a pulp. Adding top surgery scars in a character option menu is only designed to upset the target demographic and encourage a niche minority population that barely pays for these games to begin with. Again, 𝐸𝐸𝐚𝐽's contact was right. The Rainbow Cult is bombarding you with things that you don't want. It's a power play. They're forcing these things into games in the hopes that you will just leave and give up. Essentially, they want you out so they can take over. Now that all that's over, allow me to get into the summary of the entire video. So, in summary, this article is important to address the lengths the Rainbow Cult is willing to go to achieve their political and societal goals. Those societal goals are simple. They want to control everything you do, especially what you buy. Fundamentally, they are tyrants. We are living under a tyrannically gay, hostile enemy who are using every media outlet they can get their limp-wristed hands on to slander you as the enemy, as they hope to instill a sense of defeat strong enough to force you out of your own hobby. And they absolutely hate the fact that they chose the wrong battlefield. They chose a battlefield ripe with free will, that being the entertainment industry. You can't force someone to buy a game they don't want to buy, and there's no amount of ad hominems, disingenuous slander, and lies that will convince us to bow before their throne. We are walking into the safety of an arc, boys and girls, the arc of freedom of choice. And in the skies above, clouds are forming. Soon, DEI will be washed away. If you like what you heard, please hit like. Find me on Gab and X, do all the fun social stuff. Drop a comment, and don't forget the most important part. Have fun.